Marketing is complex, but at its core, it's simple, right? What can you do for the other person? Marketing is relationship building. And so dropping off donuts, giving flowers, giving a brochure all about me, 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 ultimately is a one-sided relationship. And even if you are the only ABA provider in the space, that might get you temporary goodwill, right? The donuts might last a week,
All right.
but what about the other 51 weeks where a pediatrician sees a client and that client needs a diagnosis, or the pediatrician sees a client who they gave a diagnosis to 3 years ago, and that caregiver says, my ABA provider sucks. Who else do you recommend?
Hi, my name's Steven.
Hi, I'm April.
This is the 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders Podcast, where we discuss topics on how to create and grow an ethical and sustainable ABA practice.
Together, Stephen and I owned a 7-figure ABA practice that provided both clinic and in-home services.
3 Pi Squared has helped over 900 ABA practices start up and expand with our comprehensive products and services geared specifically to ABA. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders. I'm April. And
Steven.
this is Steven. And today we have with us Matt. He doesn't need much introduction anymore, right? If you've been following along for the last few weeks, or even up to a couple months now, even Matt is part of our family, and we thank you for being here, Matt.
It's nice to be on this side, but it's going to be really trippy editing this podcast. And
100%.
it's going to give me throwback to when I had my own podcast, listening
Yes.
to myself talk over and over again as I
Uh-huh.
cut out ums and ahs and everything in between.
100%. That's always the fun part, listening to yourself. Well, Matt, for those who may not have seen you yet in our circles here, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I like to, whenever I tell people about kind of what I do and where I got there, it feels cheesy, but you have to start really at the beginning for me because my claim to fame, right, is I've never had a serving job. I've never worked retail. I was 16, 17 years old and I got a caretaking position for an adult with autism. And then from that position, I went to an RBT, freshman year in college. I worked all through college as an RBT, and I've been in the field ever since. So it's been about 10 years from being a caretaker to an RBT. I was a BCABA, and then I was a BCBA, a clinical director. I've trained teams of first year BCBAs. And throughout that entire time, it was always I'm in the field, I'm learning the field, and I'm working alongside really good BCBAs, but also seeing that there was some areas that, practitioners just can't keep up with. And it was around the 4 or 5 year mark in my career when I ended up starting the Behaviorist Book Club, which is kind of the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. side hustle. And that's kind of where it lived for, about 3 or 4 years. And it was this side project, teaching BCBAs, helping access research, basically, making it easy to be a good BCBA, right? Not worrying about the technical side of it, just like be a good BCBA by accessing research. And I realized that there was a lot of marketing in that role. And in fact, that whole bookshelf behind me really is marketing books because when I started my little business 5 years ago, I didn't have any customers and I was a nobody. Nobody saw who I was. And business owners, you can relate to this more than anyone else. You go through all of the work to start your LLC, you go through, you hire the staff, you get everything, and then nobody's at your door. And that was my realization. And it brought me to marketing, digital marketing specifically. And after marketing for 5 years for myself, and then taking that same experience and helping some of the clinics that I worked at, I realized that there was a need here, right? So that local ABA business marketing in the community, not just throwing $10,000 at Facebook and begging for a client, but building a local community network. And that's where the ABA Digital Marketing Agency came from. And that's how I ended up getting connected to Raspberry Pi and to all of my clients is local business owners who need that support to get their high quality services out above the noise of private equity, big box, everything in between.
What would you say has been your biggest lesson learned as you've switched into the marketing realm of things?
I think, and this is maybe this sounds bad, but I think that like the local ABA, but your average BCBA turned owner is fairly far behind when it comes to marketing, but it's easy to catch up. And what I mean by that is there are some key things that you could do within a weekend that would put you up to where the big players are, the private equity folks who spend 300K on a marketing team per year. So, for example, your Google business profile. I am still shocked at how many business owners either haven't claimed their Google business profile. When you go to maps.com, you search ABA, your name should pop up somewhere. It might not be number one, it probably won't be, but you should have a business profile. It helps with search, it helps with people accessing, it helps with your staff finding your clinic. I'm a Gen Z. We don't use paper maps, we don't know our way around town. Um, and it's shocking how many local business owners don't have that set up. Um, and so they're never going to rank. They're never going to show up in that search. And who is showing up is, a big box company who did something 5 years ago, right? They updated it 5 years ago and they're just reaping the rewards. They're just, they did a little bit of work. And because a lot of ABA businesses are farther behind, um, they're going to continue reaping those rewards until we push up with those quick actions, the local owners.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when we started, like when we did our Google thing, right? We were actually at our second clinic, so it was quite a ways into our like journey, right? And one of our techs started doing some admin work for us, and she came to me and she was like, you're not on Google," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "When I Google you, like there's like no, it's not here. You like we need to like say that you're a business." And okay, sure, go for it. And she's like, "Do you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you do it. Like, whatever you get to do, just go ahead." Remember that? Like, Sam came in and she was like, "Did you know about that? Or was it something you knew?" You're just like, "Yeah, I don't like," or was it like new to you too?
I mean, I knew of Google, right? But it's not
Of course you
something
knew
that
of Google,
like that I used. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, there's so many other things that we needed to worry about, like billing and paying people,
Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, you'll get to that when you get to that, and I think that there's that. Also, I think what I hear from a lot of BCBAs is I don't know how to do it ethically. And so what we find, and we posed this question to Bailey when we did our podcast with him, what do you do when you only have one Google review and it's a 1-star review because you got an upset parent that just isn't happy with your services, and it could be genuine and maybe it isn't, that doesn't even matter, but that's the only review you have is a one-star review, and that it does, like, that's awful, right? And then you have this situation where private equity that's a like a non-owned BCBA businesses where they're just going like, let's get all the testimonials and let's get all the Google reviews we can possibly get in any way that we want. And then you have this BCBA that's like, I'm just trying to do the right thing, and they get left with a one-star review.
Yeah, Google reviews are tough because well, if you look at the language of that ethics, I think it's 510. I don't know it off the top of my head. It's like 510, 5.7, something like that. We're talking about soliciting reviews from
Mm-hmm.
current clients to then get future clients. And there's a part in there that says BCBAs are not responsible for reviews given as long as they don't, like on public sites, that don't actively, you don't take that review and then get another client with it. So to me, those keywords are solicit. So we don't actively ask for reviews by getting them to then turn around and actively pursue new clients. So the usage there is really important. And the reason why big box and private equity are getting more reviews, not only because sometimes they're dodging and ignoring the ethics code, but some, there are strong ethical PE companies out there. You have to
No,
find them.
totally.
Um, but it's a volume game, right? If we say that 1% of clients leave Google reviews, right? A company that has 3,000 clients now has way more Google reviews than a company has 50, right? It's just a pure numbers game.
Sure.
And so in order to make up that difference, I think, to me, I've talked to the ethics hotline on this. I've talked to some BCBAs that I really respect in terms of ethics. It comes down to how are you asking for and what are you doing with the reviews. So a strategy that I typically recommend, and I always asterisk, this is an ethics question. Your ethics are inherently subjective, so make sure that you kind of think this through on your own personal interpretation. What my interpretation is the goal is not to solicit, the goal is to reduce the response effort. If you go to your Google business profile, there is a link that you can grab that will send somebody directly to your review site. Now, where do you put that link? I like to put it at email signatures. And I like to put it on the website accessible, but not anywhere near a contact page, right? And that's really that power dynamic is what I like to really is what I really pay attention to there. Um, should you be asking for a Google review right before you submit the reauthorization for insurance? Right? Hey, before I submit this, do you mind filling out it? No, of course not.
Right.
Underneath underneath the contact us button, that's your initial intake. Is that the spot for your Google review? No, because even though you're not inherently soliciting, you are playing on a power dynamic there that I think it's important to be aware of. Versus in our normal day-to-day conversations, reducing the response effort, even having the QR code available in the lobby or something, check out our Google reviews. To me, that passes the smell test for my personal interpretation of the ethics code. And, you know, that is also, there's a lot of people who will never leave a Google review, even with that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like it's not a silver bullet that fixes all of your Google review problems, but it at least is going to get you going in the right direction so that over time you can become competitive in that environment. Because ultimately Google wants to see active businesses. The number of reviews you have matters, the score matters, but ultimately there are other things you can do on that profile to demonstrate activity, responding to reviews, setting up offers, putting content. A lot of people don't know this. You can publish content, and you should, to your Google business profile. Take your social media post, shove it into Chat GPT for a longer form, and throw it up there. Is it perfect content? No. Um, but it gives Google the sense that there is activity. Because Google's a simple machine learning bot, right? If they send John to your business and and John looks at your business and immediately clicks off, then Google is like, okay, that sucked. I'm punished. The future occurrence of that behavior is now dropping in the future. And the inverse of that, John clicks to your web. Google sends John to your website. John scrolls around, he clicks, he submits a form, he closes. That's a big reinforcement push for Google. So with that Google profile, with your digital presence, it's all about providing value, you know, showing Google that you're active and showing the user that you have something for them. So marketing is not just push out content, content, content. It's produce value, enhance the local community, which is once again why I like the local community approach so much because it feels very nice. It feels comfy for me to say, let me push a good ABA business and show the community how much value they can provide, and then let the ABA business provide value from there.
Yeah, that's something that, we kind of did as a ABA company, right? Local outreach, providing maybe free trainings to private schools and things like this just to get our name out and help, right? We're here to help. How can we help? Rather than going to a developmental pediatrician with a dozen donuts and saying, hey, we're ABA, you give us all your referrals, right? Like that doesn't work. And there's 100 others doing that exact same thing. So let's set ourselves apart And so that's something that we definitely recommend. So I love the fact that you're doing that local outreach, because it's that will set ABA companies apart versus the other ones that are just gimme, gimme, gimme. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I don't know.
And
Yes.
once again, in that local outreach setup, it's marketing. Marketing is complex, but at its core, it's simple, right? What can you do for the other person? Marketing is relationship building. And so dropping off donuts, giving flowers, giving a brochure all about me, 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 ultimately is a one-sided relationship. And even if you are the only ABA provider in the space, that might get you temporary goodwill, right? The donuts might last a week,
All right.
but what about the other 51 weeks where a pediatrician sees a client and that client needs a diagnosis, or the pediatrician sees a client who they gave a diagnosis to 3 years ago, and that caregiver says, "My ABA provider sucks. Who else do you recommend?"
Right.
So for those dynamics, there's not a one there, and there shouldn't be a one solution there, right? What does your company do uniquely
Yep.
well? What does your experience show that other people can't do? And then how can you provide that as value to the next person who you're building that relationship with? I'm doing some marketing and local outreach for a clinic in a really rural area. Low literacy rates, very low income, and we were talking to a pediatrician. It's like one of two pediatricians in the area. And they were like, okay, I mean, thank you for the flyers. I mean, we'll give them out, but I don't expect much. People don't really understand what autism even is
Right.
when I diagnose it. And so we kind of went to the drawing board and we said, okay, what can we do really well? Well, we're behavior analysts. We can task analyze, we can break things down. And we said, what if we did a second, third grade reading level flyer on what is autism? Not what is ABA, not why XYZ company is the best company in the world, not about our summer program, but what if we simply provided value? And that caregiver associated our brand with the value. They associate our brand with clarity.
Yep.
And that flip, that switch, suddenly the pediatrician was like, "Oh my gosh, that would be amazing." It's so hard to explain. Like, what do I send them the ICD codes? Do I send them, F84.2C?
Right.
No, they need something simple. A pediatrician, one of two in the area, is too busy to create it. So let's use our expertise to create something actually valuable that the pediatricians want to pass out, that the SLPs are excited to share. And that's how you get that outreach.
Yeah, I do. I think that understanding the need for the community too is a big part of that. Yes, what do you do well, but and how can you help? But like, what's the need also? So I think that's great that you guys are able to identify that need and help fulfill that.
And it feels right. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it's
yeah.
literally what they want to do anyway.
Well, like
So
I mean, that's what you've always said, right? Like marketing to you, like from years past, right? Marketing sleazy,
yes.
right? But
You-
nothing
I
that,
think of a used car salesman, right? Like it's just,
but nothing that you've like suggested or talked about, like in the time that I've known you, but especially on this podcast, feels sleazy, right? Like it feels right. Like
Right.
it feels like, oh, okay, we're helping,
Yes.
we're continuing to like fulfill our like value of helping, because that's why most of us got into this field. It's like
Exactly.
to help the community, and we're just trying to figure out how to help the community to get them on board with us so that we can help the specific child or the
Right.
specific family.
Right.
I think a big perspective of mine that I think is different from other marketers, because there is a lot of marketing in the past. It's called bro marketing, right? 2 minutes left to access this deal. Timer
Yes.
Yeah.
countdown.
Yeah.
Don't miss or your BCBA is gone. No
Right.
wait, etc., etc. Um, that in general, that's kind of shifting out of style and marketing, which is great. We're getting a little bit more realism. Um, but as a practitioner, because marketing is behavior change, ABA is behavior change. There's a lot of shared principles there. And so as a practitioner, I was the buzzwords were compassionate and assent based. And when I work with clinicians now on the ABA side, I really push for that non-contingent reinforcement, concurrent chains model, all of those techniques that we have to say, yes, client, you can go wherever you want. You can do this, you can do that. However, these goals are what we're trying to work on. So how can I make these goals something that you want to go to? And I think that mirrors in my marketing style as well. Because ultimately, the pediatrician can do whatever they want. The SLP can send this or that. And what I would like to do is not compete, but instead just give that reinforcement over and over again to the user, to the pediatrician, to the, to the person who clicks on an ad, so that they know each and every time, regardless if they're ready to get started today, when they are ready, we'll be there.
How do you feel about? So I've been suggesting to BCBAs, if they have like a passion project, go ahead and start maybe doing some YouTube videos, right? If they already have a presentation in their back pocket, do those presentations, put them on YouTube, share them with speech, OT, PT, and say, look, this is where I go when I have questions around ABA. You should go here too. And then what will happen with that is the families will see the passion, the authenticity, the genuine willingness to just want to help, and they'll say, I need to talk to this person, right? Like I want to work with this person. And I'm just curious if that's something that you would recommend, or is there a different way to get that same thing without needing a recording studio to buy it? Because it
Yeah.
does take a lot to do that, right? When they're already busy.
Yeah, I think that, there's a couple variables there, right? In terms of, is it a good idea to put your passion project out there for other people to see? Absolutely. Not, I don't think either of us would be here if we had it, quote unquote, built in public, right? And posted the Facebook post that nobody pays attention to and submitted the YouTube video that gets crickets. So I think in terms of putting yourself out there, it's definitely a yes. Asterisk, if you're going to do it for marketing, um, it can't be a net loss for clients. So there is a quality that if you're ABA quality, you want to come across as very high quality, you should at least imitate that. So maybe that's a Fiverr editor, right?
Sure.
Maybe that is a couple different clean transitions. Maybe it's a little bit more than a Zoom. Um, Maybe it's a local documentarian. It's $1,000 project. So I think the quality has to be there, and ultimately, the why has to be providing value to somebody else. If it is an ego-driven, you've seen those TED Talks, right? Where the only reason they're on that TED Talk is to put the TED Talk on their website, and it's me, 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 me. And if you're gonna do that, you can do it if you want, but it's not gonna lead to ROI, which is the other side of the conversation, right? Is this actually going to lead to a return? It's always hard to say. There's no like marketing isn't cut and dry like this will or will not work. I will say that, posting to an empty YouTube channel is likely that's a one to many. So when you think about marketing, take a step back. There is a few different ways to cut it up. When I think about social media, blogs, YouTube, that is one person broadcasting to many people. The advantage of one to many is there's a lot of leverage, meaning one video can get 10,000 views, whereas you could never do 10,000 Facebook messages a day. The disadvantage is it's slow and it takes time. So it's massive scalability, slow and takes time, versus one to one. And so one to one is reaching out to the local pediatrician, getting on the SLP's mind. Paid ads can be a one to one depending on how you structure it. But essentially, what you're doing here is you're taking a direct step towards that person and you're hoping for a direct step back. Does it scale? Not really, not without a massive team, but it is much faster to get started. So, and you focus on one to many. Should that be your only focus of the new business? Probably not. Can you do it in combination with a one-to-one strategy? Absolutely. I mean, that's how I grew the book club, and it's how I grew the digital marketing agency, and it's how I help local businesses grow, right? Content marketing through local SEO, business profile, plus one-to-one local outreach. It's a great strategy.
And what do you think? And this probably just depends, I'm sure, but like, do you have kind of an idea on how many ABA clients you should be getting based on referrals versus paid or outreach? Like, is there a sweet spot where okay, you must be providing decent quality because of all the referrals you're getting? Is that, do you ever go into a situation and you're like, you should be getting more referrals? Or is that just, it just depends on the audience that they're working with?
Yeah, I think there's two different types of referrals. There are what I call cold referrals, which is a referral from a provider, kind of like an affiliate,
Mm-hmm.
if you can imagine that. Um, And then there's referrals from your own. So those are the warm referrals. So when I look at one of the ways I like to measure quality is how many of your current clients are recommending another person to come to you. And oftentimes that is truly the only way ABA businesses grow
Mm-hmm.
is they have this kind of like local warm referral source. And so I like to think about there's no hard and fast number, but it shouldn't be a surprise, right? If you have 50 clients, you should be getting this like, hey, by the way, this person would be great for our clinic, right? It shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, thank goodness somebody recommended us. If it is, your quality is likely not there, or you've made it so complex to get to you that people have given up referring, which is kind of another disappointing reality is that sometimes the intake forms have become so complex and you
Yes.
need a 15-minute and then a phone call and then a form that really by the time somebody, John, who was recommended by Sarah, even gets in front of you, Sarah's discharged. And then you lose John as a potential client.
Right.
Warm referrals are like gold. Nothing is better than a warm referral. If you get somebody, if Sarah says, by the way, John is on his way in, John is the new golden child of that company, and it's all focus on him. Because what that does is it builds an expectation. Let's say you get somebody from a paid ad. That paid ad gets sent out, they submit their form. Now you have Sarah as a client. How does Sarah think that you get clients? Sarah thinks you get clients by paid ads. That was her learning history. But then Sarah recommends John. John gets you through a referral. How does John think you get clients? Through referrals.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to be more likely to recommend to a friend? Sarah, who came through cold ads, or John, who not only was referred, but as soon as he was referred, was treated like gold.
Yeah.
Suddenly, John's getting two people and three people, and that cycle continues and builds. I was at a clinic director once, and I had one client who I was working really well with. I was the BCDA on the case. It was going, we were making good progress, and she recommended the parent recommended one other person to me. I remember the clinic director or the clinic owner saying, we're a little full, not sure if now's the time. And it was, I get that. We make it work. Is there any way? And the owner was great. She was a great owner. She kind of saw through what was going on. And we ended up with four other friends, and it
Yeah.
was just off of that one decision. And you think four clients, I think they were all like 20, 25 hours. I mean, that's a massive revenue bump
Yeah.
and zero on ad spend,
Yeah.
zero blogs published, no indirect hours editing Canva social media posts. Referrals are fantastic growth tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's part of why learning about marketing is so new for me. As I joined Steven's team, full time a couple of years ago when we moved, and I'm hearing a lot of questions about marketing, a lot of questions about how do I get clients when the majority, I don't have the numbers, but the majority of our clients that we got were all warm referrals. Like they were all from word of mouth. Like I don't think did we ever do an ad?
Well, like I said in the last podcast, our live CEU event, I spent $500 on Facebook. I would post on the weekend, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And I would get 10 likes and like what
nothing came from it.
So I just abandoned the whole thing. Like it just, I remember there was one client in particular. He probably referred to us
the entire community that he lived in.
And he would just say, you have to go talk to April.
I joked with him. I was like, okay, how do you know? Like, as soon as a kid gets a diagnosis of autism, like, you're on them, right? Like, where are you learning this? And it was through the network, through the community. And, where we practice, and I'm sure it's not different from a lot of metro areas. Rural is probably a little bit more challenging. Sure. But the networks are pretty strong amongst, autism parents, right? And autism communities and special ed networks and things like that. And so the word really travels fast, whether you're good or whether you're bad, right? Like they were just as much talking about those companies to stay away from as they were, hey, go to these guys. Yes. And then the other piece that I'm relating to what you're saying, and I'm like reflecting back on like my journey, and I'm like, oh, that was always very important to me, and I didn't really exactly know why or what I was getting from it, but our intake process, I was very adamant that I had FaceTime with each person, and once we grew too big for that, I trained my BCBAs how to do it directly, and we didn't bill for it, like we didn't bill like payers, like that was an out-of-pocket expense. But since we were in home services, we showed up within a very short amount of time as soon as the family was available to start that process on their time in their home, having a conversation of like, what do you need? How can we help? Yes. And that was, and then sometimes from there, the process might slow down a little bit, but we got into their home and we got to have that conversation with them.
And you never know when that flip is going to switch. Switch is gonna flip. There you go.
Don't worry, the editor can edit that.
Yeah, the editor. No, I'll leave it in. We'll keep it live. You never know when it's gonna flip because you might have a caregiver who has a 3-year-old. That 3-year-old is like that caregiver is holding on for dear life, managing early diagnosis, doctor's appointments, million therapy appointments, and suddenly that kid goes to pre-K. And they drop from a 35-hour-a-week kid to a 15-hour-a-week. But that caregiver finally has a room to breathe, joins PTA, joins XYZ caregiver group, joins this and joins that. And so suddenly that person that you've been pouring into for the last 2 years with quote unquote no referrals generated sends you 6 clients immediately because she's like, yeah, I totally get it. My kid now does XYZ, and it's because of April. It's because of Stephen.
Right.
And that it just comes down to good ABA is also good marketing because of quality.
Right.
And don't mess it up. Right? Don't get in your own way.
Totally. Well, and taking care of your staff, because not only did people come to us and say, oh, your company's name, I don't know if I should even, it's not even existent anymore, but like the company that you had, but a lot of times you would hear the tech specific name, not even the BCBA, but the tech, right? Oh, we loved, Julie. Oh, we loved Sam. We loved whoever, right? Like, our kid, my friend said that her kid, like, can't wait for her to come in, Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just about our company. It was like about our tech, right? Mm-hmm. And so we really took care of our techs, and we took a lot of time and energy to help our techs, provide quality services, and that was also part of our good name, right? It is because we took care of our staff, and that could just as easily go.
Yeah, I just think that you can then focus on what you actually want to focus on, right? And not every exchange is a market. Like, how does this benefit me? Like, who wants to, like, I know I don't want to live like that, right? So it's just like, I'm doing what I want to do anyway, so of course I'm gonna do this thing, right? Versus how can I benefit from this conversation or this exchange, right? I think it just changes the perspective. Yeah.
Well, so that being said, though, there, there are people right now who are listening who are like, okay, I do really good work, okay? Like, I have a pretty freaking amazing
Yeah.
company and I take care of my staff and my staff rock. And I'm not really getting any, like, referrals.
Yep.
What do I do?
And that's the getting in your own way. And that's really the crux of what a good marketing agency should be able to do for you baseline. I'm not talking about a highly complex marketing campaign, a full thing like a $10,000 in paid ads. I'm talking about smoothing it out so you're not losing clients. I like to think of it as, a leaky pipe. So if you think about on one end, you have your dream client, the one who not only helps your business grow and fulfill what you need business wise, but also when you can provide the most value to. Maybe you're an expert in early language and this is the kid who has been through SLP and a bunch of other ABA providers and they still can't get that language piece. So maybe that is your dream ideal client, the one who if you can serve it would change their life. That's one side of the pipe. On the other side is actually starting services. And the ideal is a quick from one side to the other. No leaks, no blockage, no spillage, one side to the other. The reality is as that person makes their way through the pipe, there are leaks, right? So maybe you have 10 dream clients, and maybe they're from referrals, maybe they're from outreach, maybe they're from Google. But about halfway through, your Google business profile isn't set up, and you lose three of them because they can't find your clinic. Then the next couple, they look at your Facebook page, and you haven't posted since 2022, and they're like, "That's weird. That business might be closed. Let me go to another business." And the next couple, they look at your website. And they say, okay, well, this website looks really awkward. It's not it's okay, I guess, but so and so X other website looks really clean. So maybe I should go with them instead. And those 10 amazing clients, not by one thing that is going to magically be solved, but these small little leaks end up as just one. And that's the challenge, because you never know how many people you have at the front of the pipe. You only know how many people are at the end. And so the first thing I like to do before spending a ton of money on ads or investing time into SEO is just to make sure we have a clean pipeline. I don't want to lose a client that we don't absolutely have to lose. If there is and other competitors, I want to have the best business profile of those 10. If that means I need 30 pictures, let's do 30 pictures. If that means that we need to start review generation and those strategies we talked about, let's get that started right away. If it means we need to take 10 days and reset our website, let's reset our website first because it's not wise to throw tons of people at the beginning of the pipe, tons of like paid ads and SEO and everything just to have them leak all throughout the way. And that oftentimes is happening with high quality ABA services that should be generating referrals is that their people are talking about you, but nobody can get through your pipe because they're just falling out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm sitting here thinking back through that, even for just what we do today, right? Because we want, like, when we're looking for a service, we want as quick as we possibly can, but we also want something that looks reputable and it's easy access. They're current, right? And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense just as a consumer myself, just for any services that I'm looking for, right?
It's the
To be able
Amazon
to
effect.
access it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me the one click.
Yeah.
Amazon, if you want to study marketing, look at Apple, look at Amazon, look
Yeah.
at the big players.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Apple Pay exists. Apple does not want to be a bank.
Right.
Apple wants you to double clap, double tap, face screen, instant buy. Same with
Yeah.
Amazon. And I guarantee you, in 2 years, you're not going to be double clicking. You're going to be just facial recognition or
Right.
something else. The
Right.
response effort is going to be lower and lower. And while we're not going to face recognition, Apple Pay your way into ABA services, if somebody joins your wait list and you don't talk to them for 2 weeks, it's a waste of time for them to be on your wait list.
Right.
If somebody submits their intake form and it takes you a week to get back to them, you probably lost them, you know? So either you hire somebody to tackle that side for it, you free up your own time, or you rely on automations, which is another great middle ground. Is it as good? Is it as personable? No, but you can very easily, with a little bit of support, set something up to as soon as somebody joins your email list or your wait list rather, it sends them that automatic email, or it sends them five over the course of a week, which then you hop on at the fifth one and send the personalization just to give you some breathing room.
Yeah. But Matt, what if I can't afford this? like, like I am a struggling like company, and yeah, everything you're saying makes so much sense. But what if I can't afford it? Like, that's a lot of money.
Money or time. And the reality is that our reimbursements are tight. Techs need a lot of pay. There's a lot of draws on business owners, but at the end of the day, the business needs, that is the lifeblood of any good business. It's getting people in and somehow generating revenue. And so when you work with service providers in marketing, and this was another reason why I wanted to hop into the space, oftentimes those service providers have no real concept of ABA, what ABA business really is.
Yeah.
Um, I remember I talked to somebody a while back when I was clinic director, and I told them about our margins, and they were like, "You're wrong." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And they're like, "No, you must be wrong because your business is quote unquote revenue positive. Every employee you have bills insurance, which then gives you more, right?" And so the idea is you know 50% of the insurance money you then put to staff, and then you have 50% profit margin. And of course, all ABA owners are swimming in cash, so
Of
that must
course.
be true.
Yeah.
Um, and that really taints the way that taints the pricing, and it taints the way the expectation of the other marketing service providers, and it causes really high rates and a lot of things you probably don't need. And so when it comes to my marketing agency or running your agency yourself, or just not running your agency or running your marketing yourself, um, it's important to track your numbers so you know what's working and be ruthlessly efficient with your time to avoid everything that's not, right? So I'll give you an example. In my kind of like full service contract, I like to focus on local outreach. I like to focus on long-term local search engine optimization, Google business profiles, and I like to also sometimes, depending on the client, work with them on paid ads. However, is the client who five people in their clinic, do they need long-term SEO strategies and paid ads? Probably not. They probably only need the local outreach. And not only that, they might not even need me for local outreach.
Right.
They might have five RBTs and one BCBA, and they might have an extra 20 indirect hours lying around throughout the whole group. And if you gave me 20 hours to do local outreach, you could complete a local outreach campaign in 2 weeks. You know, you could do what I do with a little bit of more time and a little bit more effort yourself. So for that company, it's probably not the right time to spend money on a marketing agency. It might be the right time to spend time though in marketing. And that's what I would say with the too much, too expensive, too little. There are definitely some marketing companies that are way too expensive. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I was looking at a company the other day, an ABA company, and they were using a marketing agency, and they were ranking for the keyword, "Does Elon Musk have autism?" And I was talking to the owner, and I was like, "Why do you have a blog that answers the question, does Elon Musk have autism?" And they were like, "Well, it's giving us lots of people to our website, right? We're getting a ton of views." And I'm like, "Yeah, but your eyeballs aren't the mom of the 4-year-old who you're actually looking to attract. Your eyeballs are the 24-year-old on Twitter looking to, hate farm some content."
Right.
Excuse me. So I would argue that in most cases, that marketing agency was missing the mark. in terms of effectiveness. They were marketing, but they weren't finely tuned to what the business actually needs. And that's really where I think that it helps to have somebody who actually understands your business so that you can have those real conversations. I think local SEO is a great strategy. There's no way I can afford a 9 month marketing campaign right now. Even if that pays off dividends in the end, it likely isn't the route I'm going to take. Okay, let's figure out something that does work.
Yeah, I like, and I probably won't be a good marketing person here, but I'm pretty certain that SEO is a scam. Like, like, I just I hate it. The thought of it, like, don't talk to me about it. I don't want to hear about it. Right? No, I'm not spending $5,000 a month on it. I don't even know what it does, and so no, I'm not. I mean, and that's probably an ignorant and dumb thing to do, right? But I feel like you said, the local outreach is so much. It's just better for your soul anyway, and it's what you want to do, and you're going to be reaching out to the people in your community. So why not do that first instead
Yeah.
of worrying about SEO and which ad should I pick and do some A/B testing and Facebook and yeah, I don't know. Like there's so many things that you could do that would be the last thing on my list.
Is that not
Yeah,
where we are though? Like, is that not technology?
I don't know.
it's fine tuning it, right? I will say SEO is not a scam. Just for clarity's sake, SEO is a strategy, but is SEO the right strategy for you? Do you need clients tomorrow? Do you need clients in 30 days? Do you need clients in 60 days? No, SEO is not the right strategy for you. Is your SEO strategy specific and local to your area? Are you posting a blog that says how to get an autism diagnosis that then links to, Johns Hopkins Hospital when you're in rural Missouri?
Right.
Or are you saying how to get a diagnosis in rural Missouri, quote unquote, city name that you're working in, and then actually providing value? Once again, linking to the right people, getting phone numbers, doing the legwork to make this blog not something that is just for the algorithm, but for the user. In that case, that strategy is going to make some moves. But is it going to make moves in 30 days? Probably not. Even
Right.
if you post 10 blogs in that month, 30 blogs in that month, it's not gonna have the results. And so oftentimes I think it's truly an expectation problem, right? A marketing company comes in and says, you give us 10K, we'll make that back within 30 days. I've heard that promise all the time. Think logistically about what that means. That means that a marketing company, if they do amazing, they get you 5 clients day one. You still have to do the intake, qualify them, submit to insurance, get the staff ready. There's no way that's a 30-day process. Is that a 60? Oh, and let's not even forget we're submitting to insurance. I forgot about the billing portion, right? So a marketing company, and this is very common in marketing, right? They're built on a 30-day cycle, right? The idea is you spend 10K at their agency and they make you 20K that same month. And it's a great system. It works in a lot of different industries. Um, it's not going to work in an insurance-based industry with a lot of qualifications. I'm talking to a company right now. They're spending 12K on ads for 3 different locations per month, and they're in the red. This is not a company that has 12K to spend, and they're getting over 100 leads, 100 form submissions who actually answer the phone per month. A huge amount of numbers. They're turning into maybe 2 clients a week. It's that. They're losing 95% of their, quote unquote, losing to unqualified leads. And you look at their ads and you can see why. They're advertising things that are unrelated to autism to get clicks and to get people to call, but they're not specifically talking to the people who matter. So what would you rather have? 100 ego clicks or would you rather have 5 actual clicks? And I think a lot of the waste that feels is so common in marketing is because you have a ton of ego-driven metrics. Likes and shares don't pay the bill.
No, no.
And if anything, you're just going to be chasing the next TikTok viral video just to get hate stitched, as soon as another person looks at it.
With that, so let's say you do some paid ads. I personally think that you should be testing them first, right? Like doing a couple ads at least, putting 10, $15 into them, seeing which one gives you any results. But again, I am completely ignorant to
Yeah.
sales. But the other thing is like lead, as far as your lead generation form, should we like should we make this super easy to fill out and get all of the leads and just have to sort through all of that, or should we put some limits in place so that we get more quality leads and less of that just the leads that are not going to work out anyway?
It ultimately depends on the amount of person power you have to follow up with those leads. So response effort wins in 95% of the cases, meaning the lower the response effort, the better the conversion. So let's say you have your running your paid ads, which I do want to mention something you said in a second. You're running your paid ads, you're throwing them to a landing page.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running a paid ad and you're sending them to the home page of your website, you're doing it wrong,
Okay.
right? So you're sending them to a landing page, and that landing page on the right says, you're trying to call out your target person, right? So if your target person is a caregiver, maybe a mom of a 5-year-old, then you shouldn't be saying advanced interventions, functional behavior analysis for ABA therapy. It should be something like, let me help your dreams come true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me you know I don't know, it's on the spot now, I'm struggling. But some type of copy related to that speaks to that person, related to a goal that they specifically want to achieve, right? And then on the right side, you want to have that form you're talking about. And then the length of that form is dependent on the amount of response effort that it's going to take. So the less response effort, the more leads you're going to generate, but the more time it's going to take on the back end to
Mm-hmm.
cut down those leads. Okay, so you could have name, email, age of child, boom, boom, boom. You could also have name, email, diagnosis, insurer, address, HIPAA compliant forms. Don't just throw them in a WordPress setup.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have more differentiators, which then will tell you immediately, these people are not good leads for me. They're never going to be ABA clients. Instead of calling them back one on one, let me send them a toilet training guide, whatever the app is missing. And that will automate it a little bit. But ultimately, your metric that you're tracking is ready to launch client, right? Clients who, no matter how you cut them up or how you divide them, end up ready to become an actual client for you. And so that's the number that matters. It's not about the number of clicks on the form. It's not about the number of qualified leads after a phone call. It's the number who actually start. Um, and then to the paid ads, this is something that really breaks my heart. And I run paid ads for client. I wouldn't say that it's my specialty. Like, I don't, like, some people run millions of dollars of paid ads a year. I'm very upfront. I'll run your I'll run your 2K, 5K campaigns. Anything above that, I have people I can refer you to. The amount of work that goes into paid ads is criminally under under expected. Let's say you put out a paid ad. You're going to start an ad campaign. Stephen, you mentioned 1 or 2 ads to A/B test. You want to have minimum of 10.
Oh wow.
Different hooks, different copy, different colors, different stock photos. And you want to run all those ads at the same time with a small budget. Go do that for a week, pick the winner, take that winner, the one that worked, create another 9 ads based on the winner, and run those for the next week with one totally unique ad, 2 totally unique ads. And so this optimization process, it's not a part-time gig.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that comes into optimizing a paid ads campaign. because paid ads only work when it's cooking, when it's really moving. And that takes time. Let's say you're making 10 ads per week. It's 40 different hooks and pictures per month. If you're doing video, that's even more work. And you need to let that campaign run for 30 days. You're going to get faster results on Facebook or Meta typically than Google business, or excuse
Mm-hmm.
me, than Google ads.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same process on Google ads, right? So it's the copy, the text, the links, everything. It's multiple different versions of the same. And so the amount of work to make paid ads work is a lot. And if you're not ready to commit either the time as a business owner or the money hiring somebody out, focus on outreach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Focus on quality, focus on the leaks in your pipe.
Yeah.
Because paid ads is not the right strategy for everyone. It's a great strategy, but not for the three-person business with 300 to spend per month. You're just going to be throwing money down the toilet.
Okay. And so, what should you you're working with a small ABA practice, maybe they have three BCBAs. And they want to do a marketing campaign. They've done the outreach, they've done all the things that we've suggested already. How much would you expect them to pay for something like that, and how long should they, because I know I would, right? I'd be looking at the dollars. Wait a sec, I haven't gotten a call yet. Where are we at? So, how long do they have to hold on before you just say, you know what, this isn't working? What would you recommend there?
Oof. The harsh reality is you're looking 30 days at the minimum.
Okay.
And that is tough to swallow as a business owner, which is why you have to be prepared for it. It depends on your campaign, right? At that point, if you've truly done local outreach, like not just called a couple folks, but
Yes. Yes.
truly tackled it, then that leaves you in essentially that content marketing world, which is socials and SEO. Sorry, Stephen. Or that the paid ads side of the equation. And those timelines are very different, right? So the pro con here is that an SEO and content marketing strategy is going to typically be a little cheaper, but it's going to take more time. So it's not a 30-day turnaround for that. It's
Right.
a 90-day at the minimum, realistically looking at a 180 to really get the machine rolling. But once the machine is rolling, if you could commit to 6 months of that, then you should be seeing leads, quote unquote, for free. Now they're not for free. You paid for them. You
Sure.
just paid for them over the last 3 to 6 months. However, you can slow down a lot. Once you get that machine rolling with the content marketing, you get to turn it down. So maybe your marketing campaign ends at 6 months and you pass it off to your BCBA interns or something similar to take over from there. Versus the paid ads, which are typically going to be more expensive, not only with ad spend, but also with somebody managing them. Industry standard, you're looking at about 30% of ad spend. And a lot of companies have minimum ad spends of like 3,000 to 5,000 a month. And then
Okay.
they charge on top of that 30%. So this is a very rough generalization. There's tons of different pricing models. But the most common one I see, we need you to spend 3K minimum, and you need to give us 1K on top of that. You're talking 4K. Now,
Okay.
the results are faster. Are you going to get results week one and week two? Probably not. You might get some, but you're going to be paying a lot for each lead. Ad campaigns, it's like a car that needs to be constantly tuned up. The more you tune it, the more you tweak, the faster it's going to go. The difference is when you turn off your ad spend, you run out of gas and you lose all of your tweaks. And so you compare the different strategies. SEO is going to take longer. Content marketing is going to take longer, but you can really take your foot off the gas. Ad campaigns are going to work faster, but you're going to be spending $4,000 to $5,000 until you're ready for those leads to stop. And for certain companies, they might not want those leads to stop. They might
Right.
have scaling plan in mind. They might have different strategies that they need those leads constantly coming in, which means they're kind of locked into that 4K, 4K, 5K, 6K per month
Right.
energies. So it really depends, but at the bare minimum, if you're going to run a marketing campaign or run paid ads yourself or start pushing on these things, you need to be ready to be a little patient and be prepared to have your business absorb the initial cost, which is once again why many companies likely aren't ready for that SEO side of the or strong marketing campaign side of the equation.
So would you? So if I'm hearing you right, do the local outreach and actually do the local outreach. Like that's really important. I totally agree with you. If you've called up all the speech therapists in your area and you left a voicemail, that's not local out. That doesn't count, right? Now, then you would target SEO after that, and then paid ads. Is that the kind of order that you would do it in?
Depends on your budget.
Okay.
In a perfect world, w- a perfect beautiful world, right? You would get to me about a month before you truly need the leads.
Okay.
Right? So there are some companies I work with who are in the middle of opening.
Yes.
And they get to me when they start credentialing with Medicaid. We know we have a 1 to 3 month time frame.
Right.
So in that 1 month, let me plug your holes.
Okay.
So month one, let me do the audit. Let me plug your holes. Let me make sure you have a smooth pathway, and let me get local outreach started. Build the spreadsheet, get the phone calls, and you would imitate this too if you were a business, right? Plug the holes, get your local outreach prepared. You open on January 1st. I would probably spend the first month figuring out how to be a business or figuring out if you already are a business, how to operate within the holes that you already plugged, maximizing your current clients, working with them on ethically getting referrals, um, and then getting that local outreach ball rolling. Spending a solid month, month and a half, really doing the local outreach. Um, and then within that month, if you have the time, essentially the money to afford it, start the SEO ball. You might
Yeah.
as well, right?
Okay.
Just kind of start that content coming out. And then once you finish the local outreach, you have SEO now at the 2 to 3 month mark, which is when you should start seeing results for it. At that point, I would then pull the paid ads. Because
Okay.
once again, I mean, we've all scrolled TikTok or Instagram and followed that link that ad got us. And then we go to the sketchiest looking website. We go to something where you're like, if this person hasn't stolen my credit card just by me being here, it's a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I love these DIYers out there. I'm a DIYer myself, but it's possible if you DIY'd your ABA website, it might suck.
Yeah.
And it might take somebody else looking at it to let you know that there's a lot of holes there. And so let's not run paid ads to something that sucks.
Okay.
Let's run paid ads to a high quality site that's optimized to conversion, or at least a quality landing page.
Okay. All right. And sales pitch. We're doing
Yep.
websites now. So if
Yes.
you need a website, logo, business card, brochure.
Well, that's. I mean, you stole. Like, I was going to be a little bit more like,
No, I just
classy
like
about
no
that.
class here.
But seriously though, I am obviously anybody has talked to me in any length in the three price guard world. The technology piece is not where that's not my piece of this, right? Like that's not. And I consider a website as technology. Like I had no idea. I'm learning so much about like you put a homepage, you put your service, you put how to contact us. Ta-da! No. No. Like there's
Yeah.
all of these like behind the scene things that I didn't even know existed that like are so crucial and important. Like even if your homepage is really pretty and it looks very nice, like the chances are that it's probably not what you're thinking it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a contact, like this was something that I saw too, and we did the same thing. So if you have a contact us form that's going to your Wix server, right, and it's just like here, put your email, And tell us a little bit about you, right? You're going to get these desperate, and I'm generalizing here, but desperate moms that are just wanting services right now because they're on 15 million wait lists. And they're going to say, my son, Timmy, here's his date of birth. Here's his a member ID. Here's his diagnosis, and now we have all this
That's scary.
PHI on a Wix server, right? Where and just like you
I don't
don't
even know
want to
what
do
a
that.
Wix server is,
Well,
but
just
an
like
unsecured,
just an
like, yeah.
unsecure website, which is probably where the vast majority of ABA websites are
Yeah.
built, right? So that's just something that you need to be aware of, and you want to like part of what we sell is those HIPAA compliance or forms for you, where you'll get an email, they can sign it, right? But go to intake queue, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not that expensive to do, but it's going to save a lot of headache right after the fact. So, yeah, these are just important things to do, right?
And it's important that as a business owner, you also are working in your area of competence. And you mentioned that April, like you wouldn't even know where to start with a website. Now, you could 100% do it, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
You could plug
yeah,
away on Wix and WordPress and
yeah.
spend 20, 30, 40 hours building something that you kind
Hmm.
of like. I've built websites. I'm not a designer, right? I know the conversion science, but I'm not a designer. And you look at my websites and you can tell which one I built myself, which, by the way, is getting a redesign, thank God, and the one that I paid somebody to do, right? Um, And if you're a business owner and you're newer and you're like, okay, should I spend 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. doing local outreach, something that I can talk to, the people around me and really tell them how unique and special our business is to drive clients? Or should I spend that same 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., likely even 7 p.m., building a website, trying to do something iffy? I would strongly recommend reallocating your time, doubling down on that local outreach so that you can get the clients to give somebody enough cash to then redo the website the right way the first time. You know,
Hmm.
Yeah.
um, I think we're at 8 people who we've been
Yep.
doing redesigns for, and at least 6 of them have told me the same story. Because
Yes.
if you do the website design, you're talking to me, right? So
Yep.
Steven and I, or the three Pi and us partner, but I'm the one who kind of walks you through the process. I hear the same story every time. I like my website. It took me a long time, and after I did it, I wanted to throw up if I even looked at the Wix server. If I even looked at the login page, I was like, I'm done. Please don't think about it. Um, but I don't really like to post on Facebook because then I have to link to the website,
Right.
or I don't really like to go to conferences because what if someone like looks me up and they
Yeah.
find the website and I'm
Yeah.
like, my friend, you spent 40 hours, just at a basic reimbursement rate, this website, you spend a lot of money on it.
Yes. Yes.
um, and you hate it. And that sucks.
Yes.
And the reality is that it kind of deserves to be hated a little bit because it's also losing you clients.
Yeah.
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 And so that's where, should you spend 10,000 to redesign your website for the company that has 10 clients? No. You know, let's be realistic on return on investment here. But can you free up some of your time and let the professionals give you something that works the first time? I would say yes. I'm a
Yeah.
little biased, but I would say yes.
I mean, I will like, and this is truly like my honest opinion here, but I also get that you'd be buying from me, so I totally get that this could be come off as disingenuous. But that first website those programmers made, that oh man, I love that website. That is beautiful, and I was so impressed. I was like, I cannot believe that I was a part of this, which is not much. But they did use my website to purchase it, that was really cool to see, and the fact that the client loved the website was just it's such a nice feeling to be able to help with that, you know.
And the
So
speed.
yeah,
It's a month turnaround to complete the process. It's a cool. And like you can tell, like, yes, we sell it, but we're also genuinely excited about
yeah,
it because
yeah,
it fills a need. And I talk to business owners all the time that struggle with that need and to have a solution that I'm proud of is it's kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was really exciting to be able to add that, and we did it really quick. Which, yeah, it was really, yeah, I love that we were able to do that.
Anytime that we can provide a service or we can help the community, that fills that thing I wish I had when
Yes,
we had our thing.
when we started,
And like a
yes,
little
yes.
part of me feels like a little angry about it
Yeah.
and a little bit resentful.
Right.
But most of my part, like it's almost like going back, like healing your inner child, but like I'm
Yes.
healing my like past ABA business owner self, right? Like because I'm like, okay, well I wasn't able to have that, but I'm able to be part of someone else having that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
I mean, we are at an hour and 10 minutes. I have so many more questions for you. Can you just like hit a couple real quick, and then
Yeah, let's
maybe
do it.
we do a part two? But like, how much focus should you have on your Indeed site, and how much focus should you have on getting some reviews for that?
I think hiring is the mirror of marketing. So hiring is just internal marketing, if you think about it. So I think you need to focus on the KPIs and to focus on what actually works. So if you're gonna follow an Indeed, if Indeed's gonna be your primary strategy to get clients, then let's track some data for it and let's actually know that it's working. When I do job descriptions for folks, which I don't typically do hiring stuff, but I do sometimes if I like the person, I'll rewrite them 10 different job descriptions and I'll spend multiple hours doing it. And then I send them all over. We pick the best ones and we track the data afterwards. So you can put a lot of time into that Indeed site and getting the reviews and getting all of those pieces set up, but make sure you're not doing it blindly.
Okay.
The number of applications you're getting. And before you start a new campaign, like, searching in the area and poking people and messaging or hiring a recruiter or any of those other things, have a baseline. Basically, I was able to get five. Before I spend 500 a month, I need to know that I need to get 10, because once again, if you're not tracking, you're just throwing money blindly.
Okay. And then the last thing I'll ask is, I know like a lot of people have issues around testimonials. When can I ask for them? When should I, and put them on my website, blah, blah, blah. So what we did for our company was we did satisfaction surveys, and we turned it into a nice user interface where they could see our scores, and we put it up on their on our website in the place of satisfaction surveys. But I'm just curious, and if you want to talk about that, go for it. But the big thing that I've been telling people to do is try to get a net promoter score. Do simple, instead of the every year I'm going to do like a 50 question satisfaction
Yep.
survey on that one day when I have hockey practice, I've got to take my kid to baseball too, and I've got like all this thing, and now I'm going to give you that every one year I'm going to give you your review, and it's going to suck today because it is what it is. And so like it is net promoter score more often, maybe at every supervision or once a month, or like how do you recommend they track the satisfaction of the parents that they're working with?
Yeah, net promoter score is okay. You just have to frame it in a way that people know what you're asking for.
Okay.
Like if you just say like how likely would you be to recommend us, I would probably recommend a little bit more color in that. There's different ways you can do it to not fatigue the audience, right? So let's do, you have a 50 parents, let's divide them into four randomized groups and send it to one group per quarter so you can track some progress, right? But each person's only getting individual per year. But I want to go one step further. No, we can't solicit testimonials and throw them on their websites. But you know what we are? You know what we do have to do? Freaking social validity. It is
Yeah.
literally exactly what we need to get that information for our website, for our not testimonials, but like that how many people would come back to us, how many people are satisfied with their services. And how do you track social validity? You do it early, you do it often, and you do it honestly. Right? When I was a supervisor, this was a little overkill, for full disclosure, but I would track three different social validity measures every parent training. And it was a lot to handle. It was not the best way to do it. But what I got from those social validity scores was really valuable. Right? right? It would help me as a clinician. And anytime where you can help the clinician, right? Multidisciplinary care collaboration is a great way to do local outreach, right? What's a better reason to contact somebody than let's collaborate on our joint speech and ABA client? Anytime where you can turn something that makes the client's life better into also helpful marketing things, I mean, that's value creation. So I really encourage folks to look at that social validity scores, build a system that provides value to the clinician, is on a repeatable flywheel, and then it's a great idea to do those kind of white paper-esque dashboards of
Right.
X amount of people are dissatisfied, X amount of referrals. But don't just think of it as how can I get people to say they love me? Think of it more as how can I make this client's life and outcomes better? And in the process of doing that, and we make it also useful to reach other people to then make their life.
Very well put. Did you get through all of your questions?
Yeah, I mean, I have more on it, but we'll do a part 2. So
Matt's part of the family, so he's here, and he'll be around.
We're chatting one way or the other. Might as well put it on the podcast.
Exactly.
No, I really appreciate your time, and I just want to say, I posted it in our group, but like you came to us in a time of desperate need, and I really appreciate that you were able to like. I think it was on a Monday. I was like, I lost my producer. Can you help us? And you got us a podcast out on Friday. So I really appreciate that you were able to help us so much, so quickly. And like the feedback I've gotten from the clients that our clients that we referred to you has been like amazing. So I'm so grateful that we met. I'm so grateful that you're helping our customers. And I really appreciate what you were able to do for us. So
I
you can be embarrassed. You can be embarrassed, but that's
I'll be a little red. It's been a great experience. I think we have a lot of aligned goals, and I think as soon as I realized that, it was full speed ahead. I remember when you guys first contacted me, I went downstairs and I told my wife, and I was like, we can't do dinner tonight. I got to work on something." And she was like, "What?" Like it's just, and I was like, no, this is important because I had a feeling that our goals were aligned. And once again, when you create value, you create marketing progress, and that's what I think. If there's one theme of this episode, it's that give really good value and don't get in your own way, and you're gonna be fine.
Cool.
On those words, thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate your time. We know it's valuable, and we're so glad that you're here with us and listening to what we have to say.
Yeah, and we'll share the links to the console pages, but even just sign up for a free console and let's just talk. I think it. Whether you go with us or not, I care less about that, but let's just see how we can help and put you on the right track. Yeah. And if you are interested in those websites, because they are freaking amazing, I am so proud of those websites that we've been able to build so far. We are here to support you if you need that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Well, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Hopefully it was helpful. If you would like to gain access to this entire video and actually our entire library of videos, please join our ABA Business Leaders membership. You can find that at www.3pisquare.com.